Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Ask Dr. Be Good, where we bring you not only the wonderful things happening in public education, but we also bring informative podcasts to you, helping with everyday living, helping with understanding your kids better, helping how to manage your kids better. And that's a good segue to talk about who we have today. Mr. Ricks, you want to introduce yourself, and then we'll talk a little bit about what you've been doing with us.
Yes, thank you. My name is Byron Ricks, and I am the chair and president of Legacy Preparatory Charter School, and I've been there for about 8 years since the school started.
You're
Dr.
founder,
Good and I,
yeah.
I'm one of the founders, and I'm happy to be there. I'm happy that I've been a part of that. We started with 0 students, and now we have over 1,400. So I do that. I also am president of Ricks Creative Consulting, where we do digital marketing, and I am been a professional public speaker for years, and I've worked with Zig Training Systems, Brian Tracy, and a lot of the big names. I've been to all 50 states, and speaking and training in corporate America. But the speaking and training I'm doing now is more about family. It's more about bringing the families together and how boys especially fit into the families, and how that they need their dads, and how the dads are important in the role they play. It was funny, we just had Father's Day, and we had Mother's Day before Father's Day, of course. And Mother's Day, you always have to make these reservations early. If not, you don't get in. And my family was asking me, where you want to go? And I wasn't sure where I wanted to go. And I said, it really doesn't matter. It's Father's Day. You can go in at the last minute. and it's a joke, and you have a lot of comedians. They joke about that as well. And it's funny, but then it's not. Yeah. If you think about it, because fathers need to be adorned just like moms, but then moms put in the work. And so one of the things that I want to do, I want to help fathers and teach fathers how important it is for them to put in the work as well.
So this subject is one that's close to your heart.
Yes.
We have done a couple of series with you. This is our 3rd series with you on the subject of helping manage single-family homes. Right. And so the first one that we did was on growing up without a father, and it was based on your book. You want to tell us a little bit about your book?
Yes, my book is now an ebook. It's not a hardback anymore. A lot of the younger people said they want to download it, and so it's now an ebook. Searching for Dad: 9 Side Effects of Growing Up Fatherless and How to Overcome Them. And so that's the book that I wrote, and that's the book that I've been teaching on, and that's my ministry in a sense. We all have our ministries. That's ours. I think yours is educating.
Sure.
So when I say ministry, people get, whoa, you're a pastor? No, I'm not a pastor, but we all have ministries. And so in that book, I talk about me and growing up without a father, but also I interviewed so many people. It took me 5 years to write that book. And those side effects that I came up with were those side effects that came forth, if you will, as a result of my interviews and conversations with men and women throughout the United States as I traveled, that they identified that they were dealing with, or their kids were dealing with, especially their boys. And I wrote the book again because I grew up without my dad. But one of the things that my mother didn't realize, and I saw this in many mothers that I interviewed, they didn't realize how important the dad really is to the family unit. and to the son. My mother was a very proud woman, and she felt that I can raise you all by myself. You don't need your dad. I can give you everything you need. And I constantly hear that and see that and feel that attitude. And yes, monetarily, a lot of moms can do it. But the fact of the matter is, a mom is not a dad, just like a dad is not a mom.
And so our second session was on how angry mama dramas hurt children and what to do differently.
Yes.
And so today we're going to focus in on turning boys into productive men with character. So let's continue this delving into how we can take your information and have our families actually make a difference with kids. So let me start off. Why do you think kids need to know? Why do you think these parents need to know that about these kids? What you talk about there being a natural longing for a father by children. Right. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Well, yes. I think that when I looked in the mirror, and most boys look in the mirror, and I'm sure girls as well on that side, but on this side, I was looking for features of my dad, not features of my mom. You know, Wild at Heart, Ron was Eldridge is his last name. I can't think of his first name right now. He talks about in his book the nature of boys and what boys do. My son and I played catch. Do you realize that boys love to play catch? That's a bonding experience. And not that mothers can't play catch, but that's typically not in the day-to-day activity or even the mindset of a mom to go grab a glove or a football and go in the yard and just toss it back and forth. That in itself begins to build, to bond the mother, the fathers, and the sons, and to begin to help them show what character is and talk about character and begin to build character. So kids understand that character is not just a person on the screen or a cartoon, but character is something that's developed from within, and character is what's the book called? Who You Are When No One's Looking. That's what character is.
So how would you describe being part of a whole family that encourages young men and boys to contribute more to their community? And would you start with a definition of what whole family can be?
Well, we typically think of a whole family, well, there's several definitions, right? There's the one that's ideal, like I imagine that we have mom and dad and siblings live in a house together and in the whole family. But in this day and age, that's changed. We have mixed families, and the word whole includes everyone that has a role in the well-being of that kid, that son, that daughter, those kids. And that other person doesn't necessarily have to live in or be married to the mom in that household. They can be outside the household and yet still contribute to the well-being of that son and be considered by him a part of his whole family.
So you're encouraging, especially mothers of single homes, to maybe reflect a little bit on whether their child actually has a concept of whole family. Are there those people? I mean, what kind of reflection are we asking our parents to do? I
am asking the moms specifically, and especially even dads, but moms, if the kid lives in the household with that mom, that young man considers his father a part of his family. And knowing that, then that will cause you, hopefully, to better appreciate his feelings and also better understand his wants and his needs and his desires as it relates to him wanting to interact with his father.
So the reflection question is, are you, Mom, providing a whole family opportunity for your children?
Correct.
Okay, that's fair, especially in lieu of the new definition.
Yes. Now let me have a caveat to that, because I've gotten this feedback when I've talked about this before. If your baby's father is not in a situation that's healthy and can keep your child safe, I'm not saying that you should allow your child to go into a situation where they won't be safe. But what I am saying is, if at all possible for that young man to interact with his father, then you make it available to him.
Can other males be as important or take that place?
Absolutely. Other males can be as important. You know, it's a funny thing about the male, though. When you come into a young man's life, you can't come in as his father, because he will tell you right away, you're not my dad. You can come in, though, as a male figure, as a role model that can provide the nurturing, the love, the caring, the interaction, the bonding that he yields, that he yearns for, And in that, you will become a surrogate father to him just by the fact of your actions.
So that other male can meet social emotional needs of
Absolutely.
that child such that it can actually lead to a healthy, productive adult.
Yes.
Cool.
Yes.
How can fatherless boys learn skills that foster character traits and be productive?
You know, I think you have to get them involved in activities outside of sports. I mean, sports is a good one to build character and camaraderie and those things. But you know what? How about a cotillion? You know,
They still do that.
They still do that.
Places,
you know,
yeah.
I know that and I'm in the home, and my wife put my son in, and you know, he thought, oh my God. You know?
Has he forgiven her yet?
You know what, though? He thanks her now,
Okay.
you know, because he
He is
knows
old then.
he knows the salad fork from the dinner fork, from the butter
Right.
knife, from the regular knife, and the steak knife, and where the plate goes. You know, he knows those things. So put them in activities that teach them things other than how to throw a ball. Teach them how to speak. For instance, I used to do a Toastmasters class for youth. And one of the challenges our youth have today, especially today, is because of so much social media, so much talking through social media, that I was at a graduation not long ago, and these seniors were graduating, and they were walking up, shaking my hand, and they wouldn't even look me in the eye. They look away. They just seemed very uncomfortable. Their posture was not straight and erect. I mean, those kinds of classes, courses, things like that will help them understand how to interact in today's world and interact with people. I think it's important.
Many of our young fatherless boys have anger issues.
Yes.
What can we do to help with that?
Well, we can acknowledge it. We can talk to them. I do believe in counseling if it's to that point, but you have to talk to them. You have to give them an avenue by which to talk. I know in the training that I did here recently at one community, we teaching boys 5 to 15 years old, and we dealt with the anger issue. And what we talked about was, we asked them, how do you feel about your dad? How do you feel about your dad not being with your mom? In other words, people don't know, as Zig Ziglar used to say, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care.
Right. And
so we have to get these kids in some environment or some person that the dialogue is such that they're able to express what they're feeling inside. Because in the book, I call it silent anger. Because oftentimes you don't even know. Sometimes the kid doesn't even know
right.
why they're angry. They just know they're angry.
Right.
But when you begin to talk to them, you give them that avenue to open up and have a conversation. And you ask that question, how do you feel about not having your dad? And then allow them to talk, and don't justify anything. and don't scold them and don't say you shouldn't feel that way. You have to be empathetic with them and appreciate how they feel and understand and have some emotional intelligence around their feelings relative to their fathers not being there.
What kind of symptoms would a parent look for to know whether their child has silent anger issues?
Well, you would look for how does that kid, if you have more than one kid, how does that kid interact with his siblings? Is he rude to them? Is he mean to them? For no apparent cause. I'm not talking about sibling rivalries. They argue, but is this kid unconditional, rude just for no apparent reason, if you will? How is he behaving in school? I mean, pretty much like you would look for drug addiction in a sense. You have to look for behavior changes. And when you begin to see behavior changes, then you have to begin to ask the questions around those changes to understand what's going on psychologically.
What would you say are the major character traits that a parent should be working with their child or children?
Well, as for boys, parents, we have to understand the nature of a boy. A boy wants to save the damsel in distress. A boy wants to shoot the winning shot at the end of the game. A boy wants to conquer. A boy wants to win. Not saying that girls don't, but in their nature, there's a study by Dr. Deborah Tanning, that she talks about, and she researched boys and girls at 5 years old. And she's a beautiful story where she has this little boy and little girl, and the little boy and little girl, she have them sitting on this table, and they're swinging their legs, and the little girl says, little girl A, little girl B, there's two girls, I'm sorry. Little girl A says, I have a doll. And little girl B says, I have a doll too. Little girl A says, well, my doll has a pink dress and a blue ribbon, and my doll has a broken arm. Little girl B says, my doll has a pink dress and a blue ribbon, and my doll has a broken arm too. But little girl B's doll did not have a broken arm. Girls tend to be more empathetic to other girls. They want, if you feel something, they want to feel it with you. Little boy A, little boy B. Little boy A says, I have a truck. Little boy B says, I have a big truck. Little boy A says, but I have a fire truck. Little boy B says, I have a tank. Little boy B says, well, a fire truck is better than a tank. Little boy B said, nope, my tank will run over your fire truck. And she did this. I mean, these are 5-year-old boys and girls. And so knowing that we grow and mature differently, then we have to put that boy in situations that are conducive to his male nature.
Okay. So character traits that would go with that might be allowing competitiveness, but then at the same time teaching good sportsmanship.
Yes.
And you mentioned cotillion, so I'll go with the manners thing, being courteous.
Be courteous.
And helpful.
Right. Open the door for girls. I mean, chivalry is not dead.
And women have not helped that, and we need to stop that.
Right. I agree. So open the door for them. I mean, at least, pick up the lunch. If you invite someone to lunch, a girl, you should pay for her lunch. I mean, you have to teach boys how to be men. One of the things that one of the ways boys learn that is when they do have fathers that are good fathers, and they treat their mothers a certain way. They get used to that, But when you don't have that, and you have no male, or you have a male that's not treating the mom the way the mom deserves to be treated, then the boy develops some poor habits.
Yeah. some bad understandings about what is acceptable
What is acceptable,
behavior
what is
between
exactly.
males and females.
Exactly.
And so let's talk about some community resources, because mom can't do it all by herself.
No.
So what are some community resources that a parent can tap into to help with their child's development?
Well, I think that, excuse me, I'm losing my voice. I always believe in church. I think that, a church that has a ministry for kids, a youth ministry. I went to Grace Outreach Center for years, and they were known for having the number one youth ministry in Collin County. And it's amazing the kids that came through there and the things they learned. I believe in Boy Scouts, Eagle Scouts, as I said, youth Toastmasters, speech and debate team. I was on speech and debate team. Couldn't play football or basketball. Baseball. I wasn't big enough to play those things, but I had trophies nonetheless because I became very adept at speaking and very good at debate. So you put them in those kinds of things such that they can compete, because again, everybody can't be a basketball star or athlete, but they can still compete, they can still win, and they can also develop skills that allow them to be productive citizens.
And let's not forget the schools. I know.
And schools, of course.
In schools, we have counselors, and we train teachers to be looking out for certain social emotional triggers, symptoms, behaviors, because we do know in today's educational world that there are, let's say in the poverty world, we know there kids who come from poverty often bring with them certain challenges. Let's say they have less vocabulary.
Yes.
They tend to have less reading skill. And so having kids who come from single parent homes who haven't worked at making sure dad or a male figure is in their child's life will come with those social emotional gaps that we need to help the parent with. I know at Legacy we have Professor Freedom, and he does a gentleman's group where he actually has a partnership with Sewell Cadillac, and they buy him ties. And then he teaches the boys how to tie ties. Matter of fact, he was at our graduation, if you'll remember, giving out the seniors ties for their interviews, hopefully soon. And oftentimes, that's for some of our kids. Mr. Glover has been the only male that looks like them.
Yes.
That's consistent in their life.
Interestingly enough, that in our training this last year at one, we did a session on how to tie ties, and we did one on how to change car tires. Mm-hmm. Those two rated as the top classes, how to tie ties and how to change tires. And those are the kinds of skills. A lot of times, even in different cities, they have youth programs, summer programs for kids. I mean, just begin to look at whatever is out there. I mean, YMCAs, whatever's in your area that's doing something for youth, see what it is and see what it takes to get in there. Oftentimes, if you are of a lower socioeconomic, they have plans and programs.
Yes, they do.
For you, but you have to look for those things.
Right. We did a whole podcast before summer came on helping families know how to find those low cost or free summer outings. They're on the city websites, public school websites, public library websites. They really are there, but you have to go look. They don't.
You have to go look.
Yeah. But they do help not only fill time productively, but oftentimes they're staffed by well-meaning, caring, trained adults who know how to work with kids to make them feel valued.
One other point I think you have to do with a boy, and again, a girl as well, but we're talking about now boys, give a boy his space. Give him something that's his. You got to monitor it, your mom, I get that, but something he's responsible for. Give him also some as it's a dirty word. Just give them some chores.
No, chores have been proven to show that kids who do chores have better grades.
Yes, give them some chores. Give them some things to do and read. My son is an outstanding reader. My son had to read a book, and he had to do a essay on that book. I didn't want any more than a one-page, paragraph. And I outlined to him what I wanted. My son probably read, hundreds of books growing up. My grandson's the same way, loves to read right now. And what my son, it was funny because he would be in trouble. And he always get in trouble before Christmas for some reason. And so my wife would buy him all these presents, but I would buy him a book. That would be his Christmas present from Dad, would be a book. Now, he wasn't a happy camper. But if you talk to him today, he'll tell you that I am where I am today. I'm doing what I'm doing today because my dad made me read.
Does he buy his children books for Christmas?
He takes them to the library. My grandkids, to his credit, he literally takes them to the library.
That's fantastic.
Well,
we're coming to the end of this session. We have hopefully future sessions with you. We know that we have at least one more with you on a father's role in developing character.
One last thing, though, about books, that books can help you raise your son as well. If you go to the library and you choose books on subject matter that's conducive to his development and have him read it and then reward him for it. Give him a reward.
Okay. Well, we thank you for those tips, and thank you for everyone who's listening. I hope that you have gleaned something. Even if you're not in a single parent situation, your kids still, in today's world especially, need special attention.
They do.
And so things that you talked about today can be applied not only to single parent homes, but to all parents.
And if you are not a single parent home, you're a dual parent home, dads, notice how you treat mom because your son is noticing how you treat mom.
That's huge. Well, thank you very much, everyone. Thank you for being here, and we'll see you next week.
Thanks for inviting me.
Thank you for tuning in to the Ask Dr. Be Good show. For more information on Legacy Preparatory Charter Schools, visit our website, legacypca.com, or call 469-249-1099. And remember to like us on Facebook, where we stream live weekly Tuesdays at 3 p.m.